right, everybody, welcome to another weekly webinar here at Route Consultant. If you've never been to one of these before, if you've never seen one of these, my name's Josh Gregory. I help lead the education team over here. All that should mean for you is that I'm here to help you learn about these industries, figure out if it's the right fit for you, if you're a current or if you're a prospective investor. If you're already a contractor, what we're here to do is help educate you on the things that are happening in the industry. Make sure you know about them before they become a big deal, and try to give you some advanced knowledge when we can, and help you just understand what's going on in the industry at any given week and time. Now, for everybody who's here every week, welcome back. So we always want this to be a place where we hopefully can teach you a little bit, but also we will have an open space at the end of this webinar and every webinar where you can ask any questions, whether it's something that we talk about today or just anything you have that are questions about the space right now. We're going to be here to answer it. Now, before I get too far into it, I do have a disclaimer that I have to read, as I do every week. So Route Consultant is not endorsed by and is not recommended by Federal Express Corporation, FedEx Ground, or Amazon. Route Consultant is not sponsored by, is not approved by, is not associated with, and has no connection whatsoever with Federal Express Corporation, FedEx Ground, or Amazon. Now, that out of the way, just a quick understanding of how the flow of today will work. If you've never been here, we're going to go over some content in just a second. Then I'll go over some events that are upcoming and new listings. And then we will be, the rest of the time will be available for Q&A. Importantly, if you do have questions, make sure you put it in the Q&A button at the bottom of the window. If you just raise your hand or you type it in the chat, there's a chance I'll miss it. So if you want your question answered, put it in that Q&A at the bottom and we'll make sure to get to it. Now, what we're going to be focusing on today, and most of you, whether you're looking at the Linehaul space or you're already in it, are interested in finding additional volume and finding additional runs. And one of the ways that FedEx chooses to award new runs is through something they call the point system. Now, for those of you who've been in the space for a while, sometimes it feels like this system is like the show Whose Line It Is It Anyways, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. But in reality, there is a system here. There are some really important things to know about that system to better position yourself for growth. So to help with this conversation, we have brought Alex Froome back to help kind of give his perspective. If you haven't met Alex, he's a Linehaul contractor with runs across the country who is intimately involved with everything we'll be talking about today. So Alex, if you want to go ahead and say hi and we'll get started.
Hey, Josh, thanks for the introduction. So points. This is near and dear to our heart. Points are the currency that contractors use to bid on runs. Now, the system has changed over time. Initially, when I first got into this business, points were the only thing that mattered when you bid on runs. Now there is a complex formula that I expect will change in the very near future, probably with a new contract, but we'll go over the details and we'll go over with what my expectations of how the contract will change. I don't have any inside information. I'm just looking at what FedEx has been doing and making some assumptions about what the direction I think that they're going to go. Okay, so points. So every tractor that has a assignment, whether it's a dedicated run or a UR, an unassigned run, earns a point every day that it is available. Okay, so in any given week, a tractor should be able to gain 7 points. If you decline the run, then you will lose a point for that day. And so if you decline one run one day, you'll get 6 points for the week instead of 7. So if you have a 5-day run and your run goes Tuesday to Saturday, you will still get credit for the run for your tractor being available on Monday and on Sunday. So the max points that you realistically can get on a tractor in the normal way is 365 points, or in a leap year, 366 points. Now, team runs, it's a little bit interesting. So if you have a team that goes from, say, New York to California, that's a multi-day run. So it might dispatch on Monday and it might not return back until Saturday. Well, you're still accruing points every single day that run is being executed, whether or not that tractor is in the domicile or in the location. And if you take a decline, you actually only lose 1 point that week just on the one day when your tractor was supposed to be dispatched. So that's one of the few advantages of team runs over solo runs when it comes to points. Now, you're asking me, how can you lose points? Well, there are a number of different ways that you can lose points. You can lose points with an accident. So if you have a DOT recordable, preventable accident, you can lose 250 points on the tractor that it occurred with. Okay. If you have a service failure and FedEx is not able to make service on the trailers that you are delivering. Now, if you remember, every trailer on their bill of lading will say when those trailers need to be due into FedEx. When you get dispatched, you get that information. A lot of drivers usually ignore it, but you need to be aware of it, because if you have a mechanical breakdown on the road, and it's mechanical, it's not an issue with weather, it's not an issue with traffic, it is not an issue with a trailer breakdown. If you have a mechanical breakdown on your tractor, on the power unit, and you're unable to make service, FedEx can and will assess you a 200-point deduction on that tractor. Now, how can you gain more points than the standard 1 point a week? There are two ways. One, you have a rescue. So if another contractor has a service failure or has a breakdown, you might be asked by FedEx to go rescue those trailers. And if you are able to rescue them and make service, okay, that's the key point. You have to rescue the trailers and make service. So those trailers have to arrive at their location on time. You will be awarded 50 points that you can allocate to any tractor that you want. Now, during peak, FedEx gives you an incentive program. There's two components to it. One is additional pay for doing excess miles over your baseline. The other thing is they give you excess points for over your baseline. So, and they give you, there's 3 tiers. This past year, it was 10, 15, and 20%. And you got 10 points per tractor for every week that you exceeded your baseline by 10, 15, or 20 points, or 20%. Okay. So if you had 10 tractors and your baseline is 100,000 miles and you did 110,000 miles in 1 week, then you would be awarded 10 times 10, 100 points for that week. Typically, FedEx will announce right around the end of January, middle of February, what your total points allocation were for peak. And then historically, it's been between February and March when we can allocate the points. Right now, FedEx, for whatever reason, decided to extend the point allocation until mid-May. So we're still waiting for points for the process to close down and the points to get reallocated to all the tractors. Now, if you don't allocate your points after peak, what FedEx will do is they will equally distribute your points across all your tractors. And that's something that you don't want to do. Okay. So I know there's a lot there. If you have questions on it, we can go over it. But now I'm going to get into a really wonky part of our conversation and talk about the bidding process. Okay. So there are 3 main ways you can get an assigned run. Okay. You can do the RFI process, which is you go to Build a Ground Biz and they post some dedicated runs there, and you submit an RFI, and hopefully you'll be chosen by the FedEx gods, and they will conduct an interview with you, and they will determine that you are this pristine, amazing contractor or potential contractor, and they will award you a couple dedicated runs. So that's one option. 2, FedEx has the ability in special situations and circumstances, as clarified in Section 6 of Schedule A of the TSP, that they can award runs directly to a contractor without going through the bidding process or the RFI process. And this is needs of the market, special situations. I've seen it done a couple times. I've heard about it other times. Generally, it's, hey, there's a station and there's only one contractor there, and we need to stand up a run right now. And instead of going for the process and doing an RFI, they're just going to give it to the one contractor that's operating out of that station. Or they had a hub, you're in a hub area, and because of market condition or vendor profile, contractor A lost one of his dedicated runs. And we are going to give contractor A new dedicated run that kind of is similar in miles and number of days a week as compensation for FedEx taking away that run. Okay, so there's that situation. There's the RFI, and then you have the bidding process. Okay, so how does the bidding process work? So on a Wednesday morning, and it's always Wednesday to Wednesday. Why? I don't know. It's just Wednesday to Wednesday. FedEx you will receive an email through from MGBA, not from MGB, not from My Ground Biz, but from my biz account, telling you that a tractor that you have domiciled in a hub area has the opportunity to bid on runs. Okay, so you'll go there and they will give you some really generic information that's kind of hard to interpret. Okay, so the information will be something along the lines that run 274 to 275 to 277 to 228 to 294. Number 4 is now being posted to bid. What does that mean? So that means that it's tractor that's domiciled or originating in hub or station 274. They have this run that's going to go to all these different stations, and it's the number 4 run of that time, and it's being posted for bid. A lot of times they will not give you the bump times or the destination times when those runs need to be, but a lot of times they will give you the days of the week. So sometimes they'll say just Tuesday to Saturday or Monday to Friday, or sometimes they will say Sunday to Saturday, or Saturday to Sunday. And sometimes they will give you the time that it's dispatching. So you might find out that it's a 6 a.m. dispatch or a 10 p.m. dispatch. Sometimes you won't get that information. And what you need to do in that point is you need to call dispatch and talk to the line haul planner or the senior line haul manager to get additional information. But then it'll give you instructions on how to bid. And what you need to do, depending on the location of where the hub is, you need to send an email off saying, I want to bid, I am contractor, ABC Enterprises with my V number and my CDAS number, and I'm bidding on this run, and you will say RA, whatever the run assignment is. I want to bid whatever tractors you want to bid. So you can use tractors that are already assigned runs. You can use tractors that are on your assigned run. You can use tractors that are on the unassigned run rotation. You can bid with spares that have points. The only caveat is that it has to be tractors that are domiciled in that location. You cannot use tractors that are domiciled in Tracy, California to bid on runs in Savannah, Georgia. That is just not going to happen. Now, one thing you could do is you could use runs that are based in Chicago at the Willow Springs terminal, and you could bid on runs maybe in Carroll Stream, okay? Because Carroll Stream happens to be in the hub area of the Willow Springs terminal. But that is only if they make those tractors or those assignments available to everybody in the hub area instead of in the station. Okay, does that make sense? Josh, are you following along with me?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, good. So now let's talk about how our runs are awarded. Okay, so and understand that we are in a changing dynamic right now. We just got the medal system assigned to us less than 3 months ago. We are going to get our next medal notification classification on April 15th. But as it stands right now, and from everything that FedEx has communicated to us, if you are a bronze contractor, you will not be eligible to bid on runs. You need to be either silver or gold. And by extension, if you are tier 1 safety, which means you are a bronze contractor, you will not be able to bid on runs. Okay? So safety is still the most important component in the FedEx universe. Okay? But so right now, as it stands, until August when the new contract comes out, there are 4 categories that a contractor's submission to the bidding process is evaluated on. 1 is the number of points you have. 2 is how safe you are. What is your safety tier? 3 is your safety technology. And 4 is your service and availability thresholds. Okay. Now you might be saying this seems kind of redundant because isn't a lot of this information already captured in medals? Yes. Hence why I think that this is going to change over time. But in the meantime, right now, what does safe operations mean? That means specifically, what is your SRS tier? Are you tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, or tier 5. If you are tier 5, you will get a maximum of 20 points in this area. Okay. If you're a tier 4, you get 15 points. Tier 3, 10 points. Tier 2, 5 points. Tier 1, you're not allowed to bid, but you're getting 0 points anyways. Safety technology. This refers to if your tractors are equipped with forward collision avoidance and mitigation systems. Newsflash, you're not aware right now. Come August, all your tractors need to be equipped with forward collision avoidance and mitigation system. Your tractors will not be dispatched if they do not have that equipment. So hence my comment that I think this bidding system or the formula is going to change. But up until now, when we all had tractors that didn't have safety technology on them, it was a percentage based off of like if you were in the first tier where you had to be, I think 90% or more safety tech, and then 75% or more, 50% or more, whatever. You got allocated 20%, 20 points, 15 points, 10 points, 5 points, 0 points. It's meaningless now. We're all getting 20 points because we all have tractors that are 100%, equipped with forward collision avoidance and mitigation systems. And if you're not, then instead of bidding on new runs, you need to be going down to your local dealer and buying a new tractor. Service and availability thresholds. This refers to your percentage of declines and your availability threshold. Your service threshold. Your service, you should be getting the max of 10 points on this. Very rarely, do I know of a contractor that has below, actually, I don't think I've ever met a contractor that has below 99% service availability. It's just nigh impossible. It means that you'd be out of if you think about it, we're doing, if you're a solo operator, each tractor is doing 10 runs minimum where they're going to get evaluated on a service. So in any given year, they're doing 3,650, actually, sorry, I take it back. Probably something like 2,520 runs where they can get evaluated for the service threshold, right? So it's just not, it's just very, maybe I'm doing that math wrong. 252, so it'd be 400, call it 504 runs that you're going to get evaluated on. 2 runs, kind of number of days. So it's just very rare that you would hit that threshold. That means that out of 500 runs to break 99%, you would have to like fail service on 25 of those runs or something like that. It's just not going to happen. Availability threshold is a bigger deal. Okay. So this refers to you taking declines. So there are tiering thresholds. If you've ever been a contractor for a while, FedEx will actually give you a warning if you drop below 95% on your availability threshold. If you have an assigned run, you're going to get an OTC or a letter to cure if you're below 90%. If you are an unassigned run, you're going to get a OTC or an opportunity to cure if you're below 85%. So this is something that you need to keep monitoring and be aware of, but you can lose points if you have tractors below that. And then you have points. So the FedEx kind of does this a little bit weird. So the max allocation in this category is 40% or 40 points. So they'll take the first bidding tractor. If that tractor has 3,000 points, then that tractor gets 40 points. Okay. And then what they'll do is they take tractor number 2. If that tractor has 2,950 points, then they'll get a percentage of 2,950 divided by 3,000, and that's the number of points they'll get. Okay, and it just works its way down. It's kind of convoluted, I understand. It's just the way it works. And then that total is what is used to submit the bids to FedEx, or is the formula that FedEx uses. And now, understand this. The senior line haul manager and BDS actually do not put their fingers in this. They get a report from the bidding group, which is another component of BDS, which is actually changing names now that I think of it. I think it's called Service Provider Relations, SPR. But anyways, BDS, we'll keep calling it BDS. They have a team that actually conducts this evaluation and then provides a report to the senior line haul manager and to BDS saying, ABC Enterprises is number 1, Jack Smith Logistics is number 2, and so on and so forth. Now, here's where it gets interesting. ABC Enterprises might not want that run. They might have submitted, 10 tractors, and they said, you know what? I like all my runs. I don't really want that run. So they'll decline it. Now it goes to, Jack Smith Enterprises. And Jack Smith Enterprises can say, yes, I'll take that run, but I'm going to trade in one of my dedicated runs to take it because my dedicated run only gets 2,000 miles and this thing is getting 2,500 miles a week. So guess what? FedEx a week later or 2 weeks later will now post the run that Jack Smith submitted back in to turn in as a growth assignment. So then reopen the bidding process. So once the bidding process opens up, you could see this process carry on for multiple weeks until they've worked it through and all the runs have been assigned. And then what happens is if FedEx has happened to use a number of tractors off the UR schedule through this bidding process, then FedEx will then usually post an RFI for growth opportunities for unassigned runs. Did I do a good job there, Josh, or did I confuse you terribly?
No, I mean, I think that's really thorough and it kind of addresses both what points are, how the system shakes out, and then how, actually what you need to be focused on to run it. And I think the really important caveat that you mentioned a few times is that this is a system that isn't the same as it was when it started, and we expect it to change at some point in the future again. And we'll make sure that everyone who's on these webinars will make sure that you hear as these changes happen. So that's just going to kind of be a part of the ever-changing nature of Linehaul. Is we're going to kind of see how the metal program shakes out and how the point system may adapt as we see that start to take hold.
My expectation is that based off of metals and how much weight safety gets, I think the new program is going to have a much greater weight to it to safety. So what you'll probably lose is you're going to lose safety technology out of it. All the tractors have border collision, all the tractors have whatever, it's not going to matter. And anyways, any of the non-required safety tech that's kind of nice to have and does a really good job of protecting our vehicles and reducing our accidents, that's going to actually get captured into your safe operations anyways. So I could see a world where you have points still equaling 40%, and maybe safe operations are worth 30 or 35%. And then your availability score, because that's actually weighted more in the metals program than services, recognizing that, availability is much more important than service because very few tractors actually don't make it to their destination. Then I think that maybe maybe it will be 40 points for points, 30 points for, no, it have to be more than that. Maybe like 35 points for safety. So that gets you 75 points. And then let's give 15 points to availability and 10 points to service. Or maybe it'll be 20 points to availability and 5 points to service. But it's going to be something along those lines, I imagine. And still with the same caveat that if you're bronze, you're not going to be able to bid. Now, the one thing I don't know is if they'll say if you're silver trending bronze, or if you're bronze trending silver, what is the situation there? Is FedEx going to give you the leeway to bid in those situations, or not? And that is something that I don't have any clarity on, and hopefully we'll get that information through our TSP forums this summer in June and July, or in the new contract.
Yeah, and knowing FedEx, probably a lot of terminal managers aren't going to have those answers either. They're not going to know it yet, so it's just going to be something we'll find out. I think that's probably a good time frame to think about as the new contracts roll out. Perfect. So in just a second, we're going to open it up to questions. So if anyone has any questions, make sure to start typing those in now. In the meantime, we do have 3 new listings this week. So the first one is a P&D operation out of North Carolina. This is listed at $1 million. It's 13 routes, operating at about a 17% margin with a manager. And that manager's full-time. They're on staff to handle anything operationally that you need. And there's also some assumable truck debt as well that may be an opportunity if you're looking for an alternate financing means for these. The business does operate out of 2 stations as well. So you've got some opportunity for growth in 2 different areas if you're looking at that one. The next one we have is an Amazon set of routes out of Illinois. This one's listed at $1,075,000. 15% margin, and it is really efficient operation. So if you're looking for one of those, that one's out again, it's out of Illinois on the Amazon side. And the last one is another Amazon listing out of Texas, 1,025,000. And again, really consistent, really clean margins here, and a lot of experienced and reliable drivers for this one. So Texas and Illinois for Amazon, P&D, we've got the one out of North Carolina. If you have questions on any of those, you can reach out to our team and we'll make sure to give you all the details on the listings. Also, just to be aware of some upcoming events we have. So we do a new investor summit that is really designed to, one, help you decide if FedEx is the right industry for you, and two, help you make the decision if Linehaul or P&D is the right fit for you. And so those are designed as really helping you get over the fence and learn everything you can in a short period of time and really help make one of those decisions. And those are digital on demand. You can sign up for those at any time and get all of the content immediately. But we also have workshops that are included with that take place at our office in Nashville and are included with that summit. So if you want to come out, I think our next one is in May for our next workshop. We also have happy hours across the country. We were in LA last week, or maybe it was this week actually, and we'll be in a bunch of different areas coming up. And then the big one to be aware of is our expo coming up first week of August. And that is, again, always designed as Contractor Expo, where you can come and learn from a bunch of different industry experts about what's happening now, what to prepare for in the future. And it's completely free to attend. We'll provide all the food, all the drinks, provide the good time as well. You just have to make sure to register. Free to register, but you do have to go ahead and book your hotel room, and those will sell out. And again, that's in Dallas in the first week of August. Other than that, I'm not seeing a lot of questions come in. So,
Well, I have a
yeah,
question, Josh, and
okay,
I'm
yeah,
hoping that you guys can answer. Rob Consultants, I saw the news release last week that
yes.
Spencer Patton and Patton Logistics won in federal court with against FedEx. Do you want to have any and I think that there was one key term, one key comment in there that I really liked. So wanted to see if you wanted to expand upon that at all.
What was the key term that you really like?
That FedEx, that the judges all recognize that there is inflation. Yes. The logistics market has been impacted by inflation, and that FedEx was unable to prove that inflation doesn't exist.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was even more of a favorable ruling than we expected in terms of the way that the judges phrased it. So it basically validated everything that we had been saying and proclaiming and trying to get FedEx to understand and speak to and impact the contractor market. And basically the ruling was that uh, there was zero evidence that we provided any, that we gave any kind of incorrect information or were trying to paint an incorrect picture there. And so the judge was very much in our favor and summarily dismissed all of their claims. So one, it was great for us. We wanted, it's obviously impactful for us to hear that the judges were on our side and dismissed that lawsuit. But more importantly, validated what we were saying on a public stage really helps put a spotlight on kind of the things that we want to make sure FedEx understands and continues to understand and move towards as we all work to build a better network. At the end of the day, that's the way this has to work, whether it's through contractors doing it or for FedEx making changes from top down. We want this to continue to always work to be a healthier space. And I think that was a public recognition that those are the changes that need to be made, and we weren't frivolous for calling them out.
No, I think that's very important. At the end of the day, me as a contractor, the reason why I do this work with you, Josh, and why I participate in other podcasts and why, I participate in the Linehaul or the FedEx Contractor Expo in Dallas and the Linehaul Summit in Dallas, is because, if we all are better contractors, then we all are safer operators and we all have a better experience within this network. Because at the end of the day, if I'm bumping with Josh on a run and he's based in Nashville and I'm based in Chicago and we're meeting in the middle somewhere, then I want to know that he is a safe and meticulous operator because my tractor and my driver is meeting with him and is reliant that he did a pre-trip inspection or his drivers did a pre-trip inspection on those trailers and that they are going to address any issues before they get on the road and they're going to deliver them on time to the bump so that my driver doesn't have one, an hours of service issue, or two, doesn't have to wait there at the bump and then wait for FleetNet or a third-party maintenance provider to do work on those trailers. So the whole idea is that the safer Josh is, the safer I am, is the safer network. We get a better DOT number. We're not going into all the way stations and all the inspection points, and we're just having a better experience and we're having happier drivers, which generates more revenue because happy drivers are drivers who are more efficient and are doing their job correctly. It means that we have less maintenance issues and we're able to generate better margins and better revenue.
100%. While we were talking, we did have a couple of quick questions come in. An easy one first on the point side. If you were to, buy a business from an existing contractor, do the points transfer? Is it a hard process? What does that look like?
So the points transfer automatically. Okay, so there is one caveat to that. So, and this is a change that occurred a couple of years ago, but the points transfer immediately over, but you're not allowed to utilize those points for 6 months. The tractors need to be on your A1 for at least 6 months before you can bid. So there's a couple things to understand there. One, if you're a brand new contractor or you're an experienced contractor buying somebody else's runs, the tractors that you buy or the runs that you buy with the points assigned to them, when they get put onto your new tractor numbers, you will not be able to use those new tractor numbers to bid on runs for 6 months. Now, if you get an RFI for an unassigned run rotation in March, okay, and you happen to get 80 or 90 or 180 points between now and 6 months now, during that window when that tractor starts running, you cannot use it to bid on runs until it's been on your A1 for exactly 181 days. And trust me, I know this because I tried to bid on a run at 180 days and I was slapped down and told, no, you cannot bid. And then the next day, because it was Wednesday to Wednesday and this was on a Friday. So on Saturday, I submitted the run and I was allowed to bid. So it's kind of crazy, but it's exactly 180 days. So by experience, yes. So, but the runs will transfer with the points. And actually, to me, when I'm evaluating runs, points matter to me. So I will look at a run. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm going to sell you my number 12 Prescott, and he's got 25 points on it, you know what? I'm not, one of the reasons why I'm not going to evaluate or value that run, one is the number 12. So it's probably very likely to get cut at some point versus the number 1 that might have 7,000 points on it. Well, that's a run that it's the number 1. It's running more frequently than the number 12 is. But 2, it has 7,000 points. So I'm pretty confident that, I can, bid on another run and turn it into something else. And so I could go from a run that does 2,500 miles a week to a run that does 2,700 miles a week. That's great because that's more equity, right? Because our business is evaluated literally on the number of miles that you run. So, it's all a mathematical formula, but at the end of the day, it's a formula. And so the more miles you run, the more your EBITDA is. And we evaluate our businesses on a multiple of EBITDA. So bingo, bango, bongo, your business is valued more. So yes, runs transfer automatically.
Okay. And
transfer automatically. Sorry.
Yeah. A similar but slightly different question there too. Let's say a tractor breaks down and you're replacing it. How hard is it to get those points transferred to the new tractor?
Okay, so when in the tractor upgrade process, you'll try tractor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you'll submit it to your senior line admin and say, hey, I want to do a tractor upgrade. Okay, not a new tractor number, because it means a new tractor number, it means you're adding a tractor to your A1. But when you're doing a tractor upgrade request, you're upgrading the current tractor into a new tractor. And so you're going to get tractor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is now going to become 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And so the points, when that tractor is approved and activated in TMS and in CDAS, then all those points will transfer automatically. And if you look at your Linehaul run assignment point statement, which is in MGBA. It's usually, at least for me, maybe this is a function of the fact that I check it all the time. But it's the first thing that's in the drop-down menu. So I just open up my drop-down menu and it's right there at the top is run assignment point statement. And you'll see, like, you'll look at a tractor, it's like it gets debited, all your points. And then you'll see another tractor later on, which is the new tractor. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will have a debit of 2,000 points. And what I say was 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6 will have a credit of 2,000 points. And so it just gets transferred automatically. That being said, I would double check it because I have seen mistakes made when you onboard multiple tractors at one time. So if you're going to upgrade 5 tractors all at the same time, it might not matter to you, but it can. Like you might say, I want to have my Prescott transferred to tractor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they might transfer your Prescott to tractor 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6. It might not matter. It might matter. It's up to you to decide, but just be aware of it.
Yeah, definitely. Perfect. Okay, so a last question here. So, it seems like we're seeing a little bit of softness in volume in the last few weeks in the line haul space. Do you have any idea or comment on what might be happening there?
So, I mean, actually, honestly, I'm running flat right now. I know that there's a lot of complaints out there about volumes softening and stuff like that. I think there's a number of different things. So FedEx is in their FedEx Drive and FedEx One initiative and their consolidation and process. FedEx right now is trying to achieve, I think the last time I've seen it is like $4 billion in cost savings, of which they expect roughly about 500 million to come out of line haul. So there are a couple different things. If you listen to the last last quarterly call with Raj, I think actually John Smith, who's head of FedEx Ground, and I think he's moving on or getting a new title under this new organization, mentioned that they are trying to move 10 to 15% of all volume to rail for the stuff that doesn't need to be there in 2 days. Okay, so one, I think you could be seeing some of that freight coming out of Rialto or out of Woodbridge or out of Savannah or out of the different ports. If it's slow freight, it might be hitting the rails. 2, FedEx is really doing an initiative to try to reduce empty miles. Okay, what is an empty mile? Say I am going from Memphis to Chicago, and I have a load in my tractor from Memphis to Chicago, but Chicago doesn't have anything going back. They're not going to allow you to go empty from Chicago back to Memphis. Okay, so you might see your run cut in that situation, and they might be giving it to one of 2 places. They might be giving it to outside power, and you might be getting angry that they're using outside power for this. The reason why is because they're outside power, they can send in one direction. They don't have to worry about a return trip. The other location they might be doing is giving it to the URR rotation. And so instead of your dedicated run going to Chicago and coming back empty, they can send that UR team truck or their UR solo truck. Generally they'll do it to a UR team truck. They'll sell that UR team truck to Chicago, and then Chicago will be like, we'll put them on their UR rotation. And then the next day they'll go out to Billings, Montana. And then from Billings, Montana, they'll go to Denver. And then from Denver, they'll sit in Denver for a while because Denver doesn't produce anything. But eventually Denver will figure out a way to get them out. And then they'll go to Lenexa or KCMO. And then maybe they'll go back to Memphis. So be aware, there are hubs. You need to understand the network and understand that there are certain markets that are called consumption markets. There are balanced markets. And then there are, I don't actually know what they call them, but they're like big export markets. So like Rialto, more freight comes out of Rialto than goes into Rialto. Why? Because you have the port of Long Beach there and you have everything coming in from Asia. Woodbridge, there is a lot more freight that comes out of Woodbridge that goes into. And don't get me wrong, New York consumes a whole hell of a lot, but trust me, there's a lot more freight that comes out of Woodbridge than goes into Woodbridge. That is another producer market. Consumer markets, these are markets that there doesn't happen to be a lot of industry or manufacturing or a lot of production of freight from. Denver is a challenging market at different times of the year. Ocala, Florida, Orlando, Florida, those are different or challenging markets at the different times of year. Now, historically, FedEx has recognized this and allowed you to go empty to a close by hub where you can get loads. So it used to be that you'd go to Ocala, you deliver a load, and they understand that, you know what, Ocala doesn't produce anything there because you have all these geriatric 70-year-olds living in Ocala, and they can't work in a factory. So they're just going to be buying a lot of sunscreen and, tchotchkes for their grandkids and stuff like that, and they're just not going to produce anything. Because we don't move fruit. We don't have any reefers. So you go to Ocala, Florida, and they used to historically say, okay, we're going to allow you to go empty to Birmingham. We'll allow you to go empty to Savannah. We'll allow you to go empty to Atlanta or Marietta. And those are big export markets. So from there, you're going to be able to get a load and go back to wherever. FedEx still does that a little bit, but not as much as they have been. And so that's one of the reasons why things are freight. I think FedEx is working through these issues and trying to address them and figure it out. But like I said, I mean, I did have a slowdown in January, January and February. My business since I want to say President's Day has been pretty flat. Am I getting out on my unassigned run rotations as often as I want? My AM unassigned rotations are probably a day less, maybe 2 days less than I was getting out last year. My PM unassigned run rotations are getting out 4 to 5 days a week. Some of them are getting called 6 days a week. It's really hard to staff, and I can't wait till this 5-day thing comes in. My teams, I'm getting my teams out probably twice a week, I want to say. Is it perfect? No. Would I love to be getting more miles? Yes. Would I love to be getting 5,000 miles on my teams? 100%. Right now, I'm averaging about 3,700, which is not great, but it's not bad at this time of year. It's just the nature of the beast. Is there a slowdown? Yes. FedEx has said that they expect freight volumes to only increase, between 1% and 3% next for fiscal year 2025, which is coming up on June 1st. So, we're seeing less slowdown. FedEx is doing its best right now to purge and get rid of a lot of spare tractors in the network. As they work through this process, I think you're going to see more volumes coming to the UR rotation. And I think you'll see more volumes come to this sign run rotation.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions. So Alex, thank you so much for being here and answering all of this and providing all of your expertise.
No problem. Always a pleasure, guys.
Perfect. All right. And for everybody who's online, thank you for being here, and we will see you all next week. Thanks.
Sounds good.